The site is San Diego's Jack Murphy Stadium. The matchup is AFC West Division rivals, the Chargers and the Los Angeles Raiders. Now, Charger fans are none too pleased with the Raiders lately. In fact, San Diego has not beaten the Silver and Black since 1981. The last 7 meetings between these two teams have produced Raider victories and probably even brought a smile to the face of head coach Tom Flores. But Flores himself is not too happy. Even though Los Angeles enters this game in a first-place tie with Denver, they were hammered a week earlier by the Seahawks, and the inconsistency of quarterback Mark Wilson remains a problem. Wilson has completed only 47% of his passes and has yet to show that he can provide leadership in the passing game to complement the running of Marcus Allen. On the other hand, the Chargers possess one of the game's toughest and most consistent quarterbacks in Dan Fouts. Fouts, as always, has the San Diego offense at the top of the NFL, and his exceptional ability to put points on the board against any defense is among the greatest the league has ever seen. 2 weeks earlier, on a Monday night in front of a national television audience, Fouts and the Chargers were humbled by a Raider defense that simply overpowered San Diego's offensive line. But you can count on things being quite a bit different this time around, no matter how tough that Raider defense is. These are two teams coming off totally different performances in their previous games. The Raiders were beaten by Seattle, while the Chargers surprisingly overwhelmed Denver. For San Diego, this meeting with the Raiders could well determine whether they have a chance to be true playoff contenders, or whether they will simply be another 500 team. From Southern California, it's an important division matchup. The San Diego Chargers and the Los Angeles Raiders on the NFL Game of the Week. Surprisingly, the most telling aspect of the early part of this contest was the strong play of the San Diego defense, the worst-rated unit in the AFC. But the men in blue had shut down the Broncos in their previous game in their finest defensive performance of the season, and they continued to play aggressively and well against the Raiders. Number 23, Danny Walters, intercepted Mark Wilson's pass in the end zone to foil the Raiders' first offensive possession. And then later in the first quarter, the Chargers were more than happy to pounce on a loose ball caused by a bad exchange between Wilson and Marcus Allen. Number 99, Lee Williams, was in the right place at the right time, and his recovery deep in Raider territory set up the game's first touchdown, a Dan Fouts to Wes Chandler strike of 10 yards. Chandler's juggling tightrope walk at the back of the end zone was his 6th scoring reception of the season, and deserves another look. While Chandler's brilliant catch was the payoff, it was really Fouts' ability to remain poised under the pressure of the Raider rush that made the play possible. The end result was the touchdown, and with 10 minutes gone in the opening period, San Diego led 7-0. The Raiders wasted little time in coming back. A 6-play drive was highlighted by 2 big gains, one on the ground and one in the air. First, Marcus Allen slithered through the Charger defense for 32 yards. And then to complete the swift attack, Mark Wilson nailed rookie wide receiver Jesse Hester for a 35-yard touchdown. Hester, number 84, was the man the Raiders drafted in the first round to replace Cliff Branch. The veteran speedster who has simply gotten older. As a rookie, Hester has not yet shown the consistency that his predecessor Branch possessed. But there's no question he has the speed to be the Raiders' next big play receiver. The Raiders had rebounded quickly. As the first quarter came to a close, the count was even. San Diego 7 and Los Angeles 7. In the second quarter, with a score tied, the Charger defense again took control. This was certainly not the same defense that was routinely stepped on week after week by just about all of the league's offenses. Defensive end Lee Williams, number 99, sacked Wilson to enhance his status as one of the NFL's rising young pass rushers. And then when linebacker Carlos Bradley, number 50, picked off a Mark Wilson pass early in period 2, the Chargers had their third turnover in just over a quarter of play. Bradley's interception led to a field goal of 34 yards by Bob Thomas as San Diego again pulled ahead, this time 10-7. What determines whether the Chargers win or lose is not the play of their outstanding offense, year in and year out the top-rated in the league, but the performance of their defense, annually one of the league's worst. If their defense can become just average, then the few mistakes that Dan Fouts and the offense make will not be as monumental. The San Diego offense made one of its few mistakes late in the first half when Raider linebacker Brad Van Pelt, number 91, intercepted Fouts, giving Los Angeles excellent field position and the chance to score the go-ahead touchdown. The Raiders would do just that. A Wilson pass to tight end Todd Christensen, number 46, brought the ball inside the Charger 10. And a few plays later, Frank Hawkins barreled in from a yard out for the score. But in what would turn out to be one of the game's most important plays, the Chargers blocked the extra point, and Los Angeles' lead was only 13-10. That's the way the first half ended, with the Raiders nursing a 3-point advantage. On their first offensive possession of the second half, the Chargers would tie the game. The big play was a 39-yard pass from Fouts to the NFL's most explosive all-purpose player, Lionel James, number 26. James' leaping catch was the play that put San Diego in field goal range. And when the Chargers were stopped short of the goal line, Bob Thomas drilled his second three-pointer of the game, and it was all even at 13. This seesaw battle of division rivals was just getting started, however. The touchdowns would follow at a dizzying pace as the third quarter progressed. And it was the Raiders that began the roller coaster ride, putting together an efficient 9-play drive that featured the passing of quarterback Wilson. This sideline strike to rookie Tim Moffitt, number 83, set up the go-ahead score. A 1-yard leap by Marcus Allen, whose 8 rushing touchdowns leads all NFL backs. The Raiders were now in front 20-13, but this matchup was nothing like the first time these two teams played on Monday night a few weeks ago, when the Raiders manhandled San Diego. Midway through the third quarter, the Raiders had the lead, but the Chargers were not about to lie down and play dead. What followed would be as exciting and as thrilling as any NFL game could ever be. And when it was all over, the Chargers would have the last laugh. The Chargers entered the game with the league's third-worst rushing attack. But against the Raiders' number 2 ranked defense, San Diego clearly had the better of the matchup, as Scatbacks Buford McGee, Lionel James, and Gary Anderson virtually ran at will. Even fullback Tim Spencer, number 43, got into the act, throwing crisp blocks and even making important catches, like this one late in period 3. Then San Diego appeared to tie the game when Fouts hit the recently reactivated Kellen Winslow, number 80, for an apparent touchdown. But just when Kellen thought he had his first score of the '85 season, a Charger penalty took it away. No matter, just 2 plays later, Fouts spotted Lionel James, and the NFL's Mighty Mite toted it in for his 3rd touchdown grab of the year. On a team blessed with astounding pass catchers, Lionel is the club's leading receiver. That would run true to form in this game as well, as James would end up with 11 catches against the Raiders, and a good deal more as events would bear out. This game was now a far cry from the LA-San Diego affair of just 2 weeks before. The Raiders had kicked sand in the Chargers' faces then, but that 97-pound weakling had now turned into a dynamo. The Chargers appeared to have the momentum clearly in their favor. But just when the Raiders needed a big play, they got one from heads-up Jesse Hester, who turned a routine quick out into his 2nd touchdown catch of the game. The 54-yard score returned the lead to the Raider camp. And then the 3rd period ended with the Silver and Black sending a very harsh message to Dan Fouts that retaking that lead would not come easily. Number 71, Bill Pickel's sack was a resounding blow that clearly shook the Charger quarterback. But Fouts is a man made of stern stuff. Dan is a mortal lock for the Pro Football Hall of Fame someday, as much for his leadership and toughness as well as his eye-popping statistics. Fouts would shake off the blow and return to fight another day, meeting the very next drive, while the Chargers defense returned the favor to LA. San Diego held the Raiders to just a field goal attempt, and when Chris Barr's kick sailed wide, the Chargers got the ball back for yet another march towards a game-tying score. With around 12 minutes remaining in the 4th quarter, Fouts was back in business, returning to reliable Lionel James for yet another picture-perfect pass play. Seeing the obvious success of throwing to his backs, Fouts hooked up with Gary Anderson, and with lightning quickness, the game was tied for the 4th time. Seven minutes now remained in this game of sizzling showstoppers, but incredibly, the real drama, more catches, comebacks, and cliffhanging plays, was still to come. Charger defensive captain Billy Ray Smith had made one of the game's biggest plays in the first half, a blocked extra point that helped keep this match tied. But now Smith hoped to rally his unit for some more big plays. Unfortunately for San Diego, they would not be forthcoming, as the Raiders put together a masterful drive of steady if unspectacular gains that gobbled up yardage and the clock. Hard running from Marcus Allen and Frank Hawkins put LA in position to take the lead again. This time the heroes were quarterback Mark Wilson and tight end Todd Christensen. Christensen, the AFC's leading receiver, had his fourth touchdown reception of the season, capping a drive that had used up over 5 minutes. At last, it looked as if the Raiders had finally taken the game away from their AFC West brethren. But a minute and 43 seconds still remained, plenty of time for Fouts and company to unseat LA from its lead. While the Raiders gathered round for an unusual-looking post-touchdown jubilee, one of those rare moments when seating assignments are important, the Chargers did some brain-racking of their own. Clearly, San Diego could move on the Raiders. They had proven that time and again all afternoon. And Coach Don Coryell had the best man for the job in Fouts, a fellow whose 400-plus passing yards today made him the only quarterback in league history to post such numbers in 6 different games. So with time on the wane, Fouts went to work, and darned if he didn't pull another rabbit out of his hat. Gary Anderson juked his way for 38 yards, and then Lionel James swept left end for 14 more as the Chargers had the Raiders scratching their heads in amazement. With just under a minute to play, Fouts tied the game with his 4th touchdown pass of the day, this one to the NFL's all-time leading receiver. For most of the game, the Chargers runners had made a majority of the catches. But in the clutch, when it counts most, the man you want to handle the football is Charlie Joyner. And when the 37-year-old pass-catching wizard hauled in this score, the game was tied and headed for overtime. Then Joyner continued to live right as he represented the locals for the coin toss. San Diego won the flip and elected to take the ball. On a day when both teams combined for over 1,000 yards in total offense, the choice seemed obvious. And the Chargers proved how obvious it was by taking the ball and marching right down the field on the league's 4th best defensive squad. After a key catch by Pete Holohan, Gary Anderson skirted right end for big yardage as the crowd seemed to sense that an upset victory was close at hand. Fouts then went to the redoubtable Lionel James, whose nifty scamper was but a prelude to the most exciting single play of the Chargers' 1985 season. With just under 4 minutes gone in overtime, the smallest man in pro football set off one of Jack Murphy Stadium's biggest ever celebrations. The game-winning run was the last play of a remarkable day for James. Little Train finished with 345 all-purpose yards from running, receiving, and kick returns, the second highest total in pro football history. But it was these last 17 yards that were the biggest. The 40-34 Charger triumph snapped a 7-game losing streak against the Raiders, and it also thrust the once floundering San Diegans back into the thick of the AFC West race. Before the largest home crowd in team history, the Chargers had put on an epic showpiece with the rival Raiders and had prevailed. Records had fallen like autumn leaves. Fouts passing marks, James all-purpose plays, team offensive output. But as the California sun set on the scene, the most important fact of all was that San Diego had come back time and again to beat a formidable foe, earning self-respect and a chance to do it again in games that would now have real significance on the outcome of the Chargers' topsy-turvy season.